Did you know that nuclear submarines can launch devastating strikes without being detected? I know. I'm not talking about those goofy mini-subs that you sometimes see on the Discovery Channel. I'm talking about real submarines that can go undetected for months at a time and strike targets with conventional or nuclear weapons. In fact, during the Cold War, the U.S. Navy had a plan to launch a surprise nuclear attack on the Soviet Union using its ballistic missile submarines, also known as boomers. The plan called for these submarines to sneak into the Arctic Ocean, where they would be hidden from Soviet detection systems. Once in position, they would launch their missiles and then use their torpedoes to sink any Soviet ships that tried to intercept them. One of the main advantages of using submarines to launch a nuclear strike is that they are much harder to detect than surface ships. Submarines can travel at speeds of up to 30 knots submerged, making it difficult for enemy sonar systems to track them. Additionally, nuclear submarines produce very little acoustic noise when submerged, which makes them even more difficult to detect. Another advantage of using submarines to launch a nuclear strike is that they can carry a large number of missiles. During the Cold War, some submarines were equipped with up to 20 ballistic missiles, each of which could carry multiple nuclear warheads. This meant that a single submarine could deliver a large number of nuclear weapons without being detected. But how exactly do these submarines launch their missiles without being detected? Well, it all has to do with their torpedo tubes. Torpedo tubes are used to launch torpedoes, which are self-propelled underwater weapons that can be fired at enemy ships and submarines. But these same torpedo tubes can also be used to launch missiles by simply removing the torpedo and replacing it with a missile. Once the missile is in position, the submarine fires it at its target. Now, you might be wondering why the submarine doesn't just surface and launch the missile from there. After all, wouldn't it be easier to detect the submarine if it's on the surface of the water? Well, yes, but the risk of doing so is that the submarine would expose itself to enemy aircraft and ships, which could then engage and destroy the submarine before it could launch its missile. By launching the missile from a torpedo tube while submerged, the submarine is able to keep itself hidden from the enemy, making it much more likely that the strike will be successful. In fact, during the Cold War, the U.S. Navy conducted numerous patrols in which its nuclear submarines would go undetected for months at a time. These patrols were designed to test the submarines' ability to remain hidden and to assess the effectiveness of their weapon systems. In one notable patrol in 1967, a U.S. submarine known as the USS George Washington went undetected for an entire year as it patrolled the waters near the Soviet Union. So next time you hear someone say that nuclear war is unthinkable, just remember that it's not as unlikely as you might think. And if it did happen, it would likely be because a submarine launched a surprise attack that nobody saw coming. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Also check out my other videos on the Cold War and other historical events. Thanks for watching.